A 23-person field vying for the Democratic nomination for president. The way it works, as a reminder, is you have to win the nomination of your party before you get the chance to run in the general election to actually win the presidency. Now that we've gotten that can be a very long and brutal, grueling process, as we know, no matter what party you're talking about. Look no further than what we saw play out in both parties in 2016. But are Democrats trying something new this time? A novel idea of one Democrat in particular, Joe Biden, completely bypassing the primary, not talking about his opponents at all, and only talking about President Trump. Crazy or genius? The panel tonight. Both crazy and genius, my panel. Jackie Kucinich, CNN political analyst, Washington bureau chief for the Daily Beast. Basil Smikle is a Democratic strategist, former executive director of the New York State Democratic Party. Harry Enton, senior writer and analyst for CNN Politics. And Doug Hise, a CNN political commentator and former communications director for the Republican National Committee. Okay, Jackie, as a strategy coming from Biden, right, crazy or genius?
It seemed to play well for him this week because he got all the press coverage.
Yep.
There was
he avoided the cattle call.
He avoided the cattle call, and he was able to have it all to himself. I think he might be one of the first candidates to have his speech carried live, but in its entirety by networks. I don't know how many did it, but I know a couple did. Yeah. So that in and of itself is attention that you can't pay for. So in that way, yeah. But it also, at the same time, it pitted him against Trump in a way that might not be that flattering, because you had the two sniping at each other all day long. And maybe at this early stage, some Basil could speak to this better than I could, Democrats are going to like it that they're taking it to him, but I think it gets old.
That is really my question for you, but hold it, because first, Doug,
go there.
For Trump, that he basically is only talking about Biden. We know internally his campaign has advised him to not, but for Trump, crazy or genius?
Maybe a bit of both. I mean, as everything with Donald Trump, there is some genius there, and there is definitely some crazy there. But look, Trump likes to find enemies and then go after them ceaselessly.
It's what drives him. It's what gets him excited, is finding one enemy target.
Yeah, and with the exception of his previous comments and jokes about Elizabeth Warren, he's not going to do that about Eric Swalwell or, you know, Amy Klobuchar. It's just not going to happen. Biden is a big target, and Trump's going to go after a big target.
And to Jackie's point, I hear over and over, a shade of Jackie's point, I hear over and over, Basil, that the best thing that could happen to any Democrat running in the race is to get attacked by Donald Trump. Do you think that is the case?
Not necessarily, but I think in Joe Biden's case, this is exactly what he wants. And the truth is, he's being bolstered, if you will, by Democratic nostalgia. There are a lot of Democrats that feel he's the guy to go after Trump because he can take it right to him. And I agree with you. It will get old very quickly because, number one, what new policies are you rolling out when all of your opponents on this primary stage, particularly Elizabeth Warren, are rolling out great policy?
And if soundbite after soundbite that is replayed of you, even if you roll out a policy, is sniping at Trump.
Yeah, that's going to get lost on voters very quickly. And you know, again, what new are you coming out with? And also, how many times is he going to have to respond to things like the Hyde Amendment and provide context for things that he's done over the last 25 years? So he can try to stay above the fray, essentially, and go after Trump, but he's still going to be brought back down, if you will, to sort of answer some of these questions and engage his opponents.
Harry, is there polling that tells us one way or another if this if a strategy like this works, or even on just like the sniping back and forth? Is that what, let's say, Iowa voters want to be seeing?
What we know from the polling is that electability is more important this year than in any prior cycle, at least dating back to 2000. And if you can prove that you can take it to the President of the United States, then that will bolster your case.
That's a quality that voters are liking.
That is a quality that voters are liking.
And for international viewers, electability in D.C., Washington experience specifically, that is, tell me if I'm wrong, I would argue that this cycle, that is unique. Being a creature of D.C. is typically not something that you promote on your resume.
That's exactly right. More so than in any year that I remember, saying that you have experience, you have D.C. experience, your ability to work with Republicans, all of these things that normally very much go against sort of the flow and you don't necessarily want in a Democratic primary where you're trying to out-liberal everybody. Joe Biden wants to rise above the fray, wants to prove that he has this D.C. experience and wants to be able to defeat Donald Trump.
Very important point you made about this working with Republicans, because remember when he did talk about, I want to work across the aisle, a lot of voters bristled at that because they feel in many ways that Republicans are enablers and not collaborators with respect to Donald Trump and with respect to actually putting good policy on the ground. So I wonder if voters are going to actually look past the primary to the general, or will that really matter in a general election when you're trying to move, create a lot of momentum?
It's just such a new ballgame when they get to the general. Everyone has clarity in what they believe, it seems.
We all come together. We all come together.
Yeah, sure. Look at 26 here, buddy. Okay, wait, really quick before we have to go to break. I do want to get, since the lineup for the first debate was just announced, it's a lineup, it's 2 nights, just so everyone knows, at the end of this month. And the way the rules are, 10 Democrats in the first night, 10 Democrats in the second night, and they are chosen at random. And you're seeing the list on your screen of night 1 and night 2. Anyone can grab at this. Because there are 20 people on this stage, is there a winner? Is there a loser in terms of their random selection of placement?
I would argue, I know this is something that's been going on in the Twitter sphere, I would say Elizabeth Warren is a loser, because how many people are actually going to tune into that night 1 performance where she's on the stage with all these other people? I know Jackie wants to take that. That's like, go.
I'll take the other side, that she's a winner because she's with a lot of people that aren't going to be any contention for her. It's a moment for her to shine.
She's the front runner on that stage.
On that stage, if anyone watches.
That's the problem.
Quick.
Counterintuitive. Steve Bullock. Some people will have to drop out if they don't perform well if you're at 1% or 2%. Yep. Being out of this may be a good thing for him for now.
Steve Bullock is one of the 3 that did not make the debate stage. Stand by, you get the first question next. Coming up, President Trump says an offer of dirt on a political opponent? Sure, I'll take a look. Then he tries to walk it back. Outrageous. Don't take him seriously. He didn't mean it. It's hard to actually know where Republicans are on this because so few of them are talking. That's next.